Chapter 256. Our Little Nan. Moments later she slowly stood up. Her deep, dark eyes gazed at the sky, lost in thought. Chia actually managed to stop that giant beast. When Chima spoke in shock. What on earth had happened to him? I don't know. Chen Mai shook his head, his expression extremely grave. But unimaginable power always comes with an unimaginable price. At that moment Hong Ying turned her head in confusion. Where's Ling Xian? He must be lying on some rooftop again, watching the battlefield alone with a telescope. When Chima said uncertainly, after all he was most concerned about Lin Chia's situation. Fanan Xiaonan? Hong Ying turned her head and looked at Si Xiaonan, who was standing alone behind the crowd, suddenly taken aback. Si Xiaonan's aura seemed different from before. Si Xiaonan withdrew her gaze from the sky, sweeping over the crowd before slowly raising her right hand. Buzz. A powerful pressure erupted, instantly suppressing the other members of Team 136. At the same time, a chilling aura emanated from her body, invisibly locking down the mental powers of the others. Even Chen Mai was no exception. She is Klein. Under this terrifying pressure, the members of Team 136 found it impossible to move. They stared at Si Xiaonan in shock, their eyes filled with disbelief. Xiaonan? Hong Ying gritted her teeth, staring at Si Xiaonan, her eyes full of confusion. Chen Mai's brows furrowed slightly. Is this mental control? Wu Xiangnan spoke in a deep voice. Mental control wouldn't suddenly grant someone the power of Klein. He was right. Si Xiaonan stepped forward, the terrifying pressure continuing to release. I was never a night watchman. All the documents from when I joined the team 2 years ago were fake. Si Xiaonan doesn't exist at all. She stood in front of Chen Mai and slowly spoke. I am the agent of the trickster god Loki. As the last word fell, the air fell into a dead silence. I'm sorry. Si Xiaonan spoke calmly, Shiva's grudge. I must take it away. After saying that, a cold light erupted in her eyes, and everyone felt as if a giant hammer had struck their minds, instantly losing consciousness. Si Xiaonan bent down and pulled the parchment from Chen Mai's chest. With the suppression of the Yama temple gone, the aura of this artifact immediately leaked out, exuding a terrifying destructive power. This is Shiva's grudge? Si Xiaonan murmured. Tap tap tap. Footsteps echoed in the corridor as Si Xiaonan, holding the parchment expressionless, walked into the office from the top floor. Ding dong. Welcome. Si Xiaonan frowned and turned to look at the door. A man in a black trench coat stood at the entrance, silently watching her, his eyes filled with complex emotions. Ling Xian. Si Xiaonan said, you are just an ordinary person. Don't try to stop me. Ling Xian spoke hoarsely, why are you doing this? I am the agent of the trickster god. Deception and lies are my specialties. I came to Tsangnan to uncover its secrets and to find the whereabouts of Shiva's grudge. Si Xiaonan said calmly. The Si Xiaonan you know from Team 136 is all a disguise. It was all fake. I deceived you, I used you. Is this answer satisfactory to you? Ling Xian looked into her eyes and shook his head. You're lying. Si Xiaonan's brows furrowed slightly. If it was just about using and deceiving, then why did you deliberately keep your distance from us? Ling Xian said slowly. You always shut yourself off, remaining silent, deliberately lowering your presence in both life and missions. During team-building activities you always sat alone, quietly watching us from a distance, your eyes filled with longing, yet you didn't dare to approach. Even when Zhao Kongqing was buried you didn't attend. But if you were trying to gather intelligence and get close to the captain, you should have made every effort to build a good relationship with us. Si Xiaonan's lips pressed together, unable to meet Ling Xian's gaze. And Ling Xian took a step closer, looking at Si Xiaonan. Because you are afraid. You fear that if you get too deeply involved with us when that day comes, you will soften your heart. Because you have already fallen in love with this place, haven't you? Shut up. Si Xiaonan suddenly spoke, glaring at Ling Xian, a powerful pressure suddenly descending. Ling Xian grunted, his body slammed to the ground by the pressure, his face pale, a trickle of blood seeping from the corner of his mouth. Si Xiaonan tightly gripped the parchment in her hand, sidestepping past the prostrate Ling Xian, pursing her lips as she quickly walked toward the office exit. Ling Xian struggled to support himself with his arms, turning to look at the gradually departing Si Xiaonan. a slight smile appearing at the corner of his mouth. You see, even at this point you still haven't killed me. Si Xiaonan paused at the door. Perhaps in the entire Team 136, only I truly understand you, because no detail escapes my eyes. Leng Xian pushed himself up, his voice gradually softening. No matter who you were before in these 2 years in Songnan, you are Si Xiaonan. The Si Xiaonan of Team 136. Our Xiaonan has always been a good child. Si Xiaonan's pupils suddenly constricted. She turned sharply, her reddened eyes fixed on Leng Xian, her chest heaving violently. Leng Xian, do you really think I wouldn't dare to kill you? A terrifying pressure enveloped Leng Xian's body, rendering him unable to move an inch. A ghostly light flickered in Si Xiaonan's palm as she stepped closer to Leng Xian. Swish! A flicker of ghostly light flashed, blood splattered, and a severed arm flew through the air. Leng Xian's face instantly turned pale, the excruciating pain causing his features to contort. He opened his mouth, seemingly unable to suppress a scream, but he forced himself to hold it back. The ghostly light flickered, the splattering blood gradually decreased, finally stopping completely. Si Xiaonan's gaze lingered on Leng Xian's face for a moment before she turned to leave. Do not try to stop me again, or next time I will truly take your life. She had just taken a step forward when Leng Xian followed suit. Si Xiaonan spun around like lightning, a finger pointing at Leng Xian's chest. Bang! A crisp explosion echoed in the office as a small iron box shattered against Leng Xian's chest, followed by photographs scattering like butterflies in the air. Si Xiaonan stood frozen. Chapter 257. Believe. Those are all photos of Team 136. They are pictures of picnics in the park, laughing and chatting. They are photos of welcoming Lin Chia back from graduation at the office. On New Year's Eve they are together, promising to gather again next year, drunken photos. After the Nantua Serpent Demon mission, there are photos of Lin Chia, Si Xiaonan, and Hong Ying walking out of campus with their heads held high. On the day Zhao Kongqing was buried, there's a photo of Hong Ying carving a tombstone in the grave, while the others hide in the mountains secretly watching. There's a photo of Si Xiaonan reporting to Team 136 for the first time. There's a photo of Si Xiaonan completing a mission for the first time, with a happy smile on her face, cheering with joy. Si Xiaonan stared blankly at these drifting photos in the air, as if fragments of memories surged into her mind. Those experiences of joy, happiness and satisfaction, like scenes from a movie, passed before her eyes one by one. Are her memories. They are her memories with this city, with these people. She didn't know when it started, but her eyes were already filled with tears. A warm body leaned against her from behind. Leng Xian, with blood still lingering at the corner of his mouth, extended his only remaining arm and gently embraced her from behind. A gentle voice floated into her ear. Enduring all of this alone must be painful, right? Si Xiaonan's body trembled and she could no longer hold back the tears in her eyes. Hot tears rolled down from the corners of her eyes, and she resembled a girl who had suffered great grievances, unable to speak through her sobs. Take me away. Leng Xian gently stroked Si Xiaonan's head. No matter what happens in the future, I will bear it with you. Si Xiaonan turned around and looked into Leng Xian's eyes, which were filled with unprecedented seriousness and solemnity. She pressed her lips together, her tear-stained eyes fixed on Leng Xian, took a deep breath as if she had made a decision, and a faint light flickered in her gaze. Leng Xian, she said earnestly, do you believe in me? Without a hint of hesitation, Leng Xian replied, I believe in you. Si Xiaonan turned around, her gaze directed at the chaotic sky in the distance, and slowly spoke. I have a plan, a very big, very dangerous plan. On the rooftop, Qin Mai, who was unconscious, groaned softly and slowly opened his eyes. The locked mental power had been released and the terrifying pressure had vanished. He struggled to stand up and after a long while recalled the events before his fainting. He looked at the chaos in the distance, remaining silent. Suddenly he seemed to sense something. He lowered his head, reached into his chest and took out an ancient parchment. This time, the parchment left his body without leaking a hint of aura, as if something had completely sealed its presence. He extended his finger and gently rubbed the surface of the parchment, a hint of confusion appearing in his eyes. On the surface of the parchment there was a layer of invisible gauze. Chin Mai was all too familiar with this gauze. Every member of Team 136 had once been protected by it. This was Si Xiaonan's Wuyun Sha. He stared blankly ahead, looking into the distance. If the true Shiva's curse was still with him, then what had Si Xiaonan taken away? Outside the city, Lin Qie, who was maintaining the magical seal, changed expression slightly as the magical fluctuations around him began to grow chaotic. Crack, crack, crack. A fine crack appeared on the massive ice pyramid, quickly spreading, white frost dispersing into the air, and the cracks on the tower were increasing at a visible rate. It's reaching its limit, Lin Qie murmured as he watched the pyramid gradually shatter. The triple top-tier sealing magic released by the Wuliang realm had already reached its limit in holding back the Kraken for this long. The gap in realms was always an insurmountable chasm, especially for those at higher levels. He can't hold on much longer. Xia Siming, who was surrounding Gam, noticed this scene, her eyes filled with urgency. She turned to look at Gam, who was now covered in wounds but even more ferocious than before, and cursed. Damn! How is this guy so strong? It's almost become a god. Kong Shang frowned. The guardian of the underworld is not so easily dealt with. But we don't have time left. A determined look appeared in Xia Siming's eyes. If we can't kill it in a short time, the Kraken on the other side will break free, and facing two giant beasts at once, we have no chance of winning. Kong Shang caught the implication in Xia Siming's words. He stared blankly into her eyes, and after a moment, a bitter smile appeared on his face. This day has finally come, hasn't it? Xia Siming turned to look at him. Do you regret it? Of course not. Kong Shang sheathed his straight knife, a solemn expression on his face. This is our mission. Xia Siming nodded, took a deep breath and shouted loudly. Team Phoenix. Here. Swish, swish, swish. The members of Team Phoenix, who were engaged in a fierce battle with Gam, quickly withdrew from the battlefield, descending from the sky to stand beside Xia Siming. 8 golden cloaks lined up in a row, fluttering in the wind. Xia Siming slowly closed her eyes. Are you willing to fight with me, to the death? They all slightly raised the corners of their mouths, and in the next moment, each person's fingertips glimmered with a shining emblem. They stood in the wind, gazing at the roaring hellhound before them, their eyes filled with unprecedented solemnity. We are willing. The massive iceberg collapsed with a thunderous roar, the stripped space returned, and the black gate of life surrounding the Kraken was shattered by the surging black light. The giant sea monster broke free, waving its serpent-like tentacles, its deep howls echoing in the sky. Moo! Lin Qie, clad in a deep blue robe, his eyes shimmering with light, ultimately revealed a look of determination. At this point he had no other choice. He reached into the inner pocket of his clothing and took out a shining emblem. Gently rubbing the edge of the emblem with his fingertip, a fine needle emerged. He looked down at the emblem in his hand, and after a moment, a bitter smile appeared on his face. In the end, I've walked the same path as you. He raised his head to look at the rushing sea monster before him, took a deep breath and spoke slowly. If the dark night ultimately descends. Roar. Before he could finish, a thunderous roar echoed from afar, a visible shockwave sweeping across the ground. Even the hellhound Gam and the sea monster Kraken were shaken. Lin Qie was taken aback. The members of Team Phoenix were also stunned, simultaneously halting their actions and turning to look. On the other side of the horizon, beneath the dim sky, a gigantic black hellhound was stepping through the void, charging from the city. Lin Qie stared at the appearance of the hellhound, first in a daze, then shock filled his eyes. Chapter 258, Successful Acquisition. Another mythical beast has appeared. A look of despair flickered in Xia Siming's eyes. 3 mythical beasts. What on earth is happening in this world? Kong Shang's brow furrowed slightly, but don't you find it a bit strange? Strange? What's strange about it? Kong Shang gazed in the direction the black giant dog had come from and slowly spoke. This giant dog came from the city. Perhaps things might take a turn for the better? As if to confirm Kong Shang's words, the black hellhound stepped into the void, like a bolt of pitch-black lightning, directly bypassing Lin Qie and the others, charging straight at the sea monster Kraken. Roar. Howl. The 2 terrifying beasts collided in an instant. The black hellhound stomped down on Kraken's tentacle, driving it into the ground, causing the earth to tremble violently. Then with its vicious fangs bared, it bit down on Kraken's neck. Roar! Kraken cried out in pain, while its other tentacles flailed wildly, wrapping tightly around the black hellhound. But in the next moment, dense bolts of lightning erupted from the hellhound's fur, scorching the tentacles black. The black hellhound clamped down on Kraken's neck, tearing and gnawing, and managed to rip off a large chunk of flesh, blood gushing everywhere. The hellhound savagely chewed on the piece of meat, bright red blood flowing from its teeth onto the ground, as it coldly regarded the howling Kraken, its eyes filled with mockery. It opened its mouth again and spat out the piece of flesh, a deep voice emanating from its throat, clear and resonant. The flesh of a trashy outer god? Even dogs won't eat it. Lin Chia. Phoenix Squad. Loki. This dog can actually speak human language? No, it speaks Chinese. Even Kraken was momentarily stunned, its expression seemingly asking, "We're all mysterious beasts, why can you talk? Is it that competitive?" However, the black hellhound clearly had no intention of giving it a breather. Its sharp claws suddenly slashed out, instantly severing several of Kraken's tentacles. Then a storm of lightning surged around its body, paralyzing Kraken's nerves. In that brief moment, the hellhound opened its mouth again, this time biting down on Kraken's head. Lightning crackled, the hellhound's fierce growl mixed with the sound of thunder, echoing in the sky. Even Kraken's shrill screams were suppressed, sending chills down the listeners' spines. With a violent struggle, the hellhound ultimately tore off Kraken's head, blood spraying like a giant column, splattering all over the black hellhound. A Klein-level beast on the verge of becoming a god was so easily killed under the claws of the black hellhound. It stood proudly atop the lifeless body of Kraken, slowly turning its head to look at Garm. Though both were hellhounds, Garm was clearly smaller in size, and just from the aura the black hellhound had it completely suppressed. Kraken's blood continued to drip from the black hellhound's fur, as it slowly opened its crimson maw, its fierce gaze fixed on Garm. It was like a vicious tyrant. Garm was frightened. The messenger guarding the underworld warily watched the black hellhound, instinctively taking 2 steps back, but the black hellhound seemed intent on not letting it go, closing in step by step. In the distance, "This dog looks so much like Little Black," Lin Chia muttered to himself as he watched the scene unfold. Even Lin Chia knew how absurd this was, but the fact remained. The black fur, the wrinkles on its face, even the scar on its forehead were identical. The only difference was its pair of fierce, bloodthirsty eyes and its unparalleled aura. Setting aside its appearance, Lin Chia found it hard to associate this ferocious hellhound with that silly mutt. He glanced down at the emblem in his palm, forced a bitter smile and put it away. It seems this time it won't be of use. Loki gazed at the inexplicably appearing hellhound, his brow tightly furrowed. What is that thing? Where did it come from? Lu Wuwei's lips curled slightly. Guess? Loki shot Lu Wuwei a glance, snorted coldly and thought, never mind, it's not important. I've already obtained what I wanted. He looked up into the distance and saw 2 figures flickering before they appeared right in front of him. Si Xiaonan stood there expressionlessly, extending the Shiva's curse in her hand and slowly spoke. I brought you what you wanted. Upon seeing the parchment, Lu Wuwei's expression changed instantly, his gaze filled with seriousness. Loki's lips curled up slightly as he took the parchment, his eyes filled with approval as he looked at Si Xiaonan. Well done. He leaned down, whispered in Si Xiaonan's ear and smiled. You truly are the one I chose. Si Xiaonan frowned slightly but said nothing. Loki's gaze shifted to the figure behind Si Xiaonan, his eyes narrowing like a vigilant snake. Who is he? Leng Xian stood there, his eyes calm. My follower, Si Xiaonan replied. Loki scrutinized Leng Xian for a few moments, and after confirming he indeed had a soul contract, he relaxed his vigilance, walked over to Si Xiaonan and said softly. Having 1 servant is fine, but don't have too many. The fewer people who act with us, the better. Si Xiaonan silently nodded. Loki placed the parchment back against his chest, turned to look at Lu Wuwei, whose expression was heavy, and mockingly said, I told you, Shiva's curse must be mine. A glint flashed in Lu Wuwei's eyes, and he suddenly lunged forward, reaching for Loki's body with his fingertips. Loki raised an eyebrow, his body twisting in an uncanny manner, instantly transforming into a swarm of emerald green snakes that scattered in all directions. In the next moment, Loki's figure appeared 100 meters away. Your ability is quite interesting. You can read the timeline of anything you touch and send any object back to a past point in time. You use this ability to send explosives back to the moment my avatars were just born, erasing their existence from the past. Loki spoke slowly, a time-tracing rider. Hup. Too bad I won't let you touch mine. Lu Wei frowned, got on his electric bike and prepared to chase after Loki. I've already got what I came for. It's time for me to exit. Loki turned to look into the distance, his gaze landing on the empty youth, a cold smile appearing on his lips. But before I leave, there's still an interesting little fellow to deal with. Chapter 259. Deception. The Phoenix team put away their emblems and watched the fierce battle between the Black Hellhound and Gam. Though it was called a battle, it was actually a one-sided slaughter. Despite being a canine, Gam was no match for the Black Hellhound. In just a moment he had already received 2 bloody bite marks on his body. What exactly is this hellhound? Kong Shang couldn't help but ask. Gam and Kraken are on the verge of becoming divine beings, yet it can completely suppress them. Are there any mythological records of such terrifying canine mythological creatures? Xia Siming furrowed her brows, and after a moment of silence she slowly spoke. It's not that there aren't any, it's just. There really are? Kong Shang was taken aback. Which one? The great Xia mythology, the howling celestial dog. As Xia Siming's words fell, the entire Phoenix team was stunned in place. The howling celestial dog. Kong Shang's eyes filled with disbelief. Then, as if he thought of something, he turned to look at the Black Hellhound that was locked in combat with Gam and hesitantly said, "Speaking of which, it did seem to speak Chinese just now. But didn't the myths of Great Xia disappear?" Third brother couldn't help but ask. Xia Siming turned around, her gaze falling on the city, looking in the direction the Hellhound had come from, murmuring to herself, "Since it has disappeared, there will surely be a day of return, right?" Lin Chia's figure slowly descended from the sky, watching the distant silhouette of the Hellhound, his expression filled with increasing confusion. He seemed to vaguely guess something, but he instantly extinguished that thought. How could this be possible? Just as Lin Chia was deep in thought, a figure slowly approached from afar. "Captain." Lin Chia was taken aback upon seeing the newcomer. He saw Chen Mai, draped in a dark red cloak, hurriedly walking to Lin Chia's side, his eyes filled with urgency. He frowned as he looked into Lin Chia's eyes and said, "Why are you still here? Captain, what brings you here?" Lin Chia's eyes showed confusion. "What happened?" "Si Xiaonan has defected. Come with me to chase her," Chen Mai said with a serious expression. "What?" Lin Chia was stunned. How could this be possible? "I don't have time to explain. Quickly follow me." Chen Mai grabbed Lin Chia's wrist and hurriedly ran off into the distance at an incredible speed. At that moment, a brown magic circle suddenly appeared beneath his feet. In an instant, the ground beneath him seemed to come alive, transforming into dozens of giant rock hands that slammed toward Chen Mai's figure. The rock hands piled up one after another, instantly sealing him within. A spherical rock mass with a diameter of several meters hovered above the ground. At the same time, Lin Chia showed no hesitation. A spatial teleportation portal appeared behind him and he quickly fell into the portal. Boom! The rock mass on the ground exploded instantly, a powerful and cold aura spreading rapidly. The spatial teleportation behind Lin Chia was abruptly interrupted, and after a moment of blurriness he remained in place. Lin Chia's expression turned grim. From the shattered rock, a tall, thin Western man slowly emerged. He squinted at Lin Chia and spoke with some surprise. "Interesting. How did you discover it?" Lin Chia looked into his eyes and calmly replied, "The captain would never use the word defect to describe his team members. What if she really defected? Then he would only say, Xiaonan has left, she will come back." Loki's brows slightly raised. "I didn't expect her status in your hearts to be so high." "This isn't about status. This is about Team 136. As Lin Chia answered, he continued to try to open a spatial magic with his hands behind his back, white light flickering. "Ridiculous trust," Loki scoffed. "Besides, there's no need to try to escape anymore. If I let a little brat like you who hasn't even reached Klein escape, then I wouldn't deserve to be the god of trickery. The god of trickery. Lin Chia's heart sank. So it really is Loki? When the fake Chen Mai first appeared, Lin Chia sensed something was off. He tried to use divination to discern the identity of the person before him but found he couldn't see through the other party at all. From that moment on, he knew that this man was far beyond what he could contend with, so when he unleashed rock magic, he unhesitatingly used spatial magic to prepare for his escape. You want to take me out of Songnan's range? After a moment's thought, Lin Chia saw through Loki's intentions. The other party was a deity. If he wanted to kill him, he wouldn't need to go through the trouble of pretending to be Chen Mai. Claiming that Si Xiaonan had defected was just a ploy to lure him away. And the direction of escape was precisely outside Songnan City. Combining this with the advice Chen Fuzi had given him earlier, it wasn't hard to guess that if he left Songnan, something bad would happen. What? Loki raised an eyebrow, seemingly surprised that Lin Chia had seen through everything. It seems you already know everything? Lin Chia did not deny it. He certainly wouldn't foolishly ask, know what? At this moment, only by admitting it could he extract more information. If that's the case, then why are you unwilling to leave with me? Loki squinted and said, this city will only meaningless hold you back. Don't you want to leave this cage and see the outside world? Lin Chia appeared unfazed, but his mind was racing. Holding him back. Cage? Outside world? What was he talking about? Lin Chia vaguely sensed that this matter was far more complicated than he had imagined. Since birth, he had indeed never left Songnan City. Even during the previous rookie training, the Watchers had specifically chosen Songnan as the location. Now that he thought about it, perhaps they didn't want him to leave Songnan's range? What exactly did they want to do? What were they hiding? This is my home, I don't want to leave here, Lin Chia said. Loki looked at Lin Chia and smiled, genuinely happy. But, you have already left, haven't you? Lin Chia was taken aback. He suddenly looked around and found that the surrounding environment was rapidly fading, replaced by a vast wilderness. He had unknowingly left the range of Songnan. Don't forget, I am the god of trickery, deceiving space, deceiving you. It's as simple as that. Loki's smile grew increasingly wild as he gazed at the city behind Lin Chia, laughing heartily. Look at that city. It's truly beautiful now, isn't it? Lin Chia abruptly turned his head, stunned in place. Golden light scattered from the city, and the scattered skyscrapers were gradually dissipating. The city was disappearing. Chapter 260. The Great Miracle. Songnan City. Old, low houses seemed to have turned to sand, transforming into golden specks that scattered in all directions. The streets, interspersed among the skyscrapers, were rapidly retreating, the solid asphalt pavement disappearing, replaced by muddy soil. Streetlights, greenery, signboards, cafes, ramen shops, wedding stores, Peace Bridge offices. Golden specks flowed like a torrent, dancing in the air, rising up, vanishing without a trace. Everything like a dream or an illusion suddenly shattered. On the vanishing street, a 7-year-old girl looked around in confusion. In front of her, a woman stared in horror at her own body. She was also disappearing. What's happening? What's going on? The woman murmured. She suddenly looked up at her daughter, and upon confirming that her body had not turned into golden specks, a look of relief appeared in her eyes. Deep within her eyes, it seemed as if some long-buried memory was awakening. So that's how it is. She staggered to her feet at this moment. The entire right side of her body had already vanished. She walked in front of the girl, a slight smile on her lips, gently stroking the girl's head with her left hand. Mom's time has come. The happiest thing for Mom in these 10 years has been having you. In the days to come, you will have to face everything alone. She looked up at the sky, a look of relief in her eyes. The miracle has finally come to an end. Scenes like this were happening in every corner of Songnan City. Countless people watched in terror as their loved ones and friends gradually disappeared beside them, their eyes filled with panic. But in the eyes of those who were disappearing, a sense of relief eventually emerged, as if they finally recalled everything, smiling as they bid farewell to those beside them. In the entire Songnan City, 90% of the people were disappearing. Boom! Cups and thunder clashed together, sending shockwaves that tore the surrounding earth apart. Master Chen sat in the carriage about to take action again, when suddenly he seemed to sense something, his expression changing drastically. Master. The voice of the book boy came from outside the carriage, filled with urgency. The city is disappearing. Master Chen's face turned grim. He sighed deeply, a look of helplessness appearing in his eyes. This day has finally come. Master, what's going on? The book boy asked in confusion. Why is this happening? Is it because some deity has acted against this city again? Not at all. Master Chen took a deep breath and slowly spoke. This is all because this city should never have existed. Should never have existed? Do you know what caused the divine war 10 years ago? Wasn't it because of the Shiva's wrath? Yes, but not entirely. Master Chen said calmly. 10 years ago the Greek god King Zeus peered into the fate of the world, predicting that an unprecedentedly powerful blasphemer was about to be born, and accurately calculated that he would be in Songnan city of the Great Xia. To eliminate his existence as soon as possible, Zeus sent the Earth Mother Gaia to join forces with some evil gods from the north to attack the Great Xia's borders. And Shiva's wrath was a part of their plan, a weapon used to eliminate the blasphemer. Master Chen continued, Songnan city is just a small city in the Great Xia, and its location is far from the border. Under the combined efforts of the 5 strongest human beings, they could not break through, so they resorted to using Shiva's wrath. The book boy seemed to realize something, shocked as he spoke. You mean? Exactly. Anger flared in Master Chen's eyes. After obtaining Shiva's wrath, the Earth Mother Gaia did not hesitate to expend her power to write a name on the surface of a parchment. Songnan city. They used Shiva's wrath to erase a city. The book boy's eyes widened in disbelief. To kill a blasphemer who had not yet been born, they directly erased a city. Once that name was written, the entire Songnan city seemed to be wiped from existence, vanishing without a trace. Not even a stone, a speck of dust, or a drop of blood was left behind. A city, along with its 1,000,000 inhabitants, was thus erased. The book boy gaped, unable to believe what he was seeing. But this city is still here, isn't it? It still exists because of Lin Chia. Master Chen slowly closed his eyes. After Songnan was erased, only one person survived. That is Lin Chia. No one knows how he, only 7 years old at the time, escaped the erasure of Shiva's wrath. But later, in that old low house, our people found 3 fragments of artifacts. A silver bracelet, a broken crystal ball, and a uniquely shaped ring. These 3 artifacts were buried underground in the low house, forming a mysterious formation. Lin Chia's survival might be due to this, but we still have no clues as to who left these 3 artifacts behind. Even if Lin Chia is the only survivor, what about this city? After Songnan was erased, the angel King Michael, designated as deity number 003, chose the only survivor in the Void City to be his agent, which is Lin Chia. After inheriting the divine ruins, he infused an extraordinarily large amount of divine power into Lin Chia's body, buried deep within his subconscious. Then a super large divine ruin covering the entire Songnan city unfolded. That is, the Mortal Realm Divine Domain. Master Chen paused before continuing. Lin Chia, carrying the Mortal Realm Divine Domain, was like a walking terminal, subconsciously utilizing the divine power of the spiritual world to reconstruct the entire Songnan city and revive the citizens who should have been erased. In short, he rebooted the entire Songnan. Even though he himself was completely unaware, he was constantly using the Mortal Realm Divine Domain to maintain the daily operations of this city. He was the soul of this city, and this city existed solely because of him. The divine power infused into him by Michael was enough to sustain the operation of this divine domain for 10 years. After 10 years, dust returns to dust, earth returns to earth. In fact, even without this incident, the city would have vanished half a month later. These 10 years were enough for many things to happen, as every person in the city was alive. They could work, live, and leave Songnan to go to other places, because within them the imprint of the Mortal Realm Divine Domain already existed. Unless the divine domain disappears, they will continue to exist. Although they had been erased within the Mortal Realm Divine Domain, they could still marry and have offspring. The most crucial point is that the offspring they leave behind exist completely outside the Mortal Realm Divine Domain, meaning that even if one day this divine domain disappears, their children can still survive. These 10 years were a decade of bloodline continuation. The book boy's eyes were filled with shock. The mortal realm divine domain actually has such incredible abilities. Master Chen closed his eyes and slowly said, if we were to label the top 10 divine ruins, then sequence 008, Shiva's Wrath, represents destruction, while sequence 003, Mortal Realm Divine Domain, represents miracles. The city these 10 years exists solely because of Lin Chia, the greatest miracle. Chapter 261. No Regrets. The Mortal Realm Divine Domain is the divine kingdom amidst the mortal world. The book boy murmured the name of the divine ruins, suddenly realizing that this is why the higher-ups of the Night Watch place such importance on Lin Chia, for he is the soul of this city. Indeed, to sustain this miracle, the Night Watch has been secretly monitoring Lin Chia, preventing him from leaving the boundaries of the mortal realm divine domain, because once he departs, this city which has lost its soul will cease to exist. If that's the case, why do they still want Lin Chia to become a Night Watcher? Why not let him remain an ordinary person quietly maintaining this miracle? The book boy asked in confusion. As I mentioned before, maintaining such a vast miracle requires an immense amount of divine power. The divine power that Michael infused into Lin Chia can only sustain this city for 10 years. Once the 10-year limit is reached, which is half a month from now, this city will still vanish and Lin Chia, who will regain the complete mortal realm divine domain, will become the most potential divine agent in this world. At that time, informing him about the forbidden ruins, the mysteries, and the divine beings will be too late. He may very well fall into darkness, deceived by the followers of the ancient gods, becoming an evil deity. Thus, his joining the Night Watch was already part of the higher-ups' plan. Qin Fuzi sighed deeply, recalling the call he received from Commander Yi, and continued, our purpose for coming to Cangnan this time is not to investigate divine fluctuations, but to assess Lin Chia's current mental state and determine whether he can accept the reality of the city's destruction in half a month. Unexpectedly, this group of foreign gods intervened, hastening the city's demise. Fortunately, over the past 10 years, the Night Watch has been preparing for this moment. Even if Cangnan disappears, they have the most comprehensive contingency plan. The book boy turned to look at the gradually vanishing city and sighed. The residents of Cangnan City, erased in confusion and ignorance, then revived, enjoyed 10 years of life, leaving behind their offspring. Lin Chia's merits are immense. Not everyone is unaware. Qin Fuzi glanced out the window and slowly spoke. There is one person who has known everything from the beginning. He is the one who has suffered the most and is the saddest in this city. On the rooftop of the office, Chen Mai, Wu Xiangnan, Hong Ying, and Wen Qima stood there, still immersed in the bewilderment of Si Xiaonan's departure, speechless. Captain Ling Xian is also missing. Hong Ying bit her lip, her face somewhat pale. Xiaonan did not betray us, Chen Mai said firmly. She just temporarily left to do what she wanted to do. I believe she will come back. Wen Qimo remained silent for a long time, then nodded. I also believe Xiaonan will not betray us. Just as Hong Ying was about to say something, a multitude of golden light points began to rise from the city, and everything around them started to disappear. What is happening? Wu Xiangnan was stunned by this scene. In the distance, one by one, pedestrians transformed into golden light points, dissipating into the air. Parents about to turn into light points gently stroked their children's heads, smiling as they told them to be strong, because they are the generation of miracles. What is going on? Why is everyone disappearing except for the children? When Qima frowned and spoke, looking down at his body, which showed no signs of turning into light points. Hong Ying and Wu Xiangnan exchanged glances. They also had not transformed into light points. Because you have been in Cangnan for too short a time. Chen Mai's voice came from the side. He sat at the edge of the rooftop, looking at the gradually disappearing city, calmly stating, only those who were in Cangnan City at 2:36 and 19 seconds p.m. on October 24th, 10 years ago, will disappear. When Qimo and the others exchanged glances, nodding thoughtfully. I remember Hong Ying, you came to Cangnan 4 years ago. When Qimo said, I came 3 years ago and the vice captain seems to be. I came 5 years ago. Wu Xiangnan replied. And Qingyu, standing nearby, looked at her body in confusion, also showing no signs of light points drifting away. After pondering for a moment, she nodded. In October 10 years ago. I should have been in Huaihai City attending elementary school. I hadn't come to Songnan yet. Wu Xiangnan thought for a moment and slowly said, I remember among us it seems that only. At this point he suddenly froze as if realizing something and turned sharply to the side. Sitting alone at the edge of the rooftop, Qin Mai looked down at his body, a hint of bitterness appearing in his eyes. His body was disappearing. Golden light began to dissipate from his fingertips, gradually spreading to his palm, wrist, and arm. The golden glow illuminated his cheek as he looked up at the vanishing city, his eyes reflecting the myriad light points, as if they were as brilliant as the stars. Captain. Hong Ying was stunned by this scene, and after a moment she frantically ran to Qin Mai's side, staring intently at those light points, her whole body trembling. Captain, it's all right. A gentle smile appeared on Qin Mai's face. He reached out with his other hand, gently stroking Hong Ying's head. I have waited for this day for a long time. Qin Mai. Wu Xiangnan's brows furrowed tightly. What is going on? Qin Mai sighed deeply, looking into the distance and calmly said, 10 years ago while still in Shangjing City, I received orders to leave Shangjing alone and head to Songnan to find the person prophesied by Zeus, who could overturn divine authority. My mission was to find him and bring him back to Shangjing. Unexpectedly, during the Border Divine War, Gaia seized the Shiva's grudge, and at the cost of expending power, directly erased the entire Songnan city. At that time I happened to be within Songnan. Qin Mai shook his head with a bitter smile. Thanks to Lin Chia I had another chance to live. At that time I still didn't know what had happened. Later, after learning everything from the commander, I voluntarily stayed in Songnan, hiding the Shiva's grudge, and from then on I never returned to the capital, disappearing from sight. Then you all came. At this point he reached into his chest pocket and took out the sheepskin scroll wrapped in Wen Sha, handing it to Hong Ying. Xiaonan did not take the Shiva's grudge. She is not a bad person. I should no longer be able to guard this thing. Hong Ying, please keep it safe for me, and when the higher-ups arrive hand it over. Qin Mai's body had already disappeared halfway, the golden light illuminating a corner of darkness. Hong Ying had already turned into a tearful mess. She took the Shiva's grudge from Qin Mai's hand and nodded heavily. Qin Mai lowered his head, took out his own emblem from his pocket, softly reciting the small words on the back, looking at the city before him, a smile appearing between his brows. I, Qin Mai, have guarded this city for 10 years. Now, it is time to leave with it. Captain. Hong Ying cried out, reaching out her hand, seemingly wanting to grasp the dissipating light points, but could only hold on to emptiness. Qin Mai's gaze swept over the faces of the others. He smiled and said, By the way, when you see Lin Chia again, remember to thank him for me. Thank him for giving me, for giving my children, for giving everyone in this city. A miracle. These 10 years I, Qin Mai, have no regrets. His voice gradually faded and Qin Mai's body transformed into golden light points, ascending to the sky, merging with the golden torrent, becoming a brilliant expanse of sky. Chapter 262, Seeking Forgiveness. Songnan City Old Town. In a small, dilapidated house, the fragrant aroma of cooking wafted out. Auntie carried a plate of hot dishes to the table and called out loudly, Ajin, it's time to eat. On the balcony, Yang Jin stood alone, his gaze fixed on the distance, seemingly lost in thought. Seeing that Yang Jin did not respond, Auntie wiped her hands on her apron and muttered as she walked toward the balcony, You child, I'm calling you to eat. Only then did Yang Jin come back to his senses. Got it, Mom. He walked to the table, looked at the dishes and pursed his lips. Xiao Heilai doesn't know where he's gone to play. He still hasn't come back. The thunder outside is so loud. There should be a heavy rain soon, right? Auntie chattered as she sat down. Noticing Yang Jin still dazed, she asked in confusion. Eat. What are you still dazing around for? What's wrong with you today? You've been so absent-minded. Nothing at all. Yang Jin slowly sat down, picked up the chopsticks beside him and served a portion of food. He placed it in Auntie's bowl. Mom, eat more. Auntie was taken aback. I'm eating, you should eat more yourself. Yang Jin nodded and quietly began to eat. The rumbling thunder came from outside, and flashes of lightning crisscrossed the sky. In the distance, faint golden lights slowly rose. What's going on with the weather today? Auntie said while eating. Thunder, earthquakes, and it's been half a day without a glimpse of sunlight. I don't even know when the clothes hanging on the balcony will dry. I still have to wear them to work at the factory tonight. By the way, you'll have to cook dinner yourself tonight. Mom is on the night shift and won't be back. Yang Jin responded with a but after a moment of silence he spoke up. Mom. You've worked hard to raise me and my brother for over 10 years, living a life of hardship. Do you regret it? Auntie was taken aback by this question, then laughed and scolded. What nonsense are you saying? With you and your brother being such understanding kids, Mom is more than happy. Besides, what's wrong with a hard life? Mom has grown up in hardship since childhood. If you were to let me live in those big houses now, I wouldn't be used to it. Auntie looked up, glancing around the cramped yet familiar home, and smiled. It's still more reassuring to live at home. Yang Jin looked at the smile on Auntie's face, momentarily stunned, and then a smile appeared on his youthful face as well. Then, in the future, when everything is over, when my brother comes back, can we return to this old house and live together? Mom would like that. Auntie shook her head with a smile. But you and your brother are both going to find wives. How can you continue living with this old lady in a place like this? As long as you both come back to visit often, Mom will be very happy. As her words fell, Auntie looked at her fingertips and suddenly froze. Golden lights were drifting away from her fingertips. She stared blankly at this scene. What is happening? Yang Jin's lips trembled slightly, his face pale as he struggled to maintain a smile, softly speaking to Auntie. Mom, don't be afraid, everything will be all right. Auntie looked closely at the lights spreading from her fingertips to her palm, her expression filled with increasing confusion. Ajin, is Mom going to leave? Yang Jin opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but found himself unable to speak, only able to silently clench his hands and slowly lower his head. A hand gently lifted his chin. Auntie's eyes seemed to hold something more. Memories long sealed opened up. Knowing her fate, she gently wiped away the tears at the corners of Yang Jin's eyes, a smile appearing on her weathered face. Ajin, Mom has to go. Yang Jin could no longer hold back. Tears streamed uncontrollably from his eyes. He stood up and embraced his mother tightly, choking out. Mom, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. 10 years ago we were still in the cycle of reincarnation, unable to catch up with all this, unable to stand in front of you to stop this tragedy from happening. It was us who couldn't save those hundreds of thousands of lives, and couldn't save you. I'm sorry. Auntie held Yang Jin in a daze, her eyes filled with confusion. Ajin, you are. Yang Jin raised his head, looking into Auntie's eyes, his red eyes flashing with a faint divine aura. Auntie murmured, so that's it, you are actually. I can have such a special child in my life. Yang Jin clenched his fists tightly, his nails digging into his flesh, blood dripping down. He took 2 steps back and slowly knelt before Auntie, deeply bowing. I, Yang Jin, representing the gods of Daxia, apologize to all the victims of Songnan City. We have arrived late. Auntie stood up, helping Yang Jin from the ground. She looked into his eyes filled with guilt and self-blame, smiled gently and embraced him. Silly child, it's good that you're back. Mom, don't worry. Yang Jin took a deep breath, determination shining in his eyes. 10 years ago we couldn't catch up with all this. Thanks to my brother, today we have another chance. A chance to save everyone. A silver light flashed in Yang Jin's hand, revealing a gray cloth bag. This is the Soul Gathering Bag, a treasure of the Heavenly Sovereign, capable of holding the souls of all the victims in this city. Now that the divine realm is shattered, the souls retained in the human world are separating again. I will use this Soul Gathering Bag to collect all the souls. And when the Heavenly Sovereign reshapes everyone's bodies, you can be revived. At that time, Songnan will reappear in the world. Yang Jin looked into Auntie's eyes and said seriously, Mom, please bear with it in the bag for a while. One day our family will be reunited. Auntie smiled slightly. Mom believes in you. Golden lights enveloped Auntie's entire body, and she gradually began to fade away. She walked up to Yang Jin and gently stroked his face for the last time. Ajin, take care of yourself and take care of your brother. Don't worry, Mom. Yang Jin said earnestly, my brother will be fine. Auntie nodded, her entire being transforming into golden lights, dissipating into the air. Faintly, a voice echoed in the air. Wait for you to come home. Golden lights surged out of the window, rising into the sky, merging into a golden torrent. Yang Jin walked to the window, opened the cloth bag in his hand, and his deep voice echoed in every corner of the city. Souls return. The golden torrent seemed to find its direction, quickly rushing into the soul-gathering bag, and in an instant, it was all contained within. Yang Jin silently tied up the bag in his hand, turned to look at the empty house, and after a long silence stepped outside. As soon as he opened the door, a 6 or 7-year-old child in a bright red hoodie stood at the entrance, seemingly waiting for him. Neza. Yang Jin looked at him and calmly asked, "What are you doing here?" The boy shrugged, "Whatever you do, I'll do too." Yang Jin narrowed his eyes. "How much of your power has recovered? Are you going to seek death? If you go alone, it's also seeking death." The boy replied slowly, "Among us gods, only you have fully recovered, but even so, you might not be able to kill a fully intact foreign god. I still have 100 years of reincarnation power." Yang Jin said lightly. Neza frowned slightly. "Overdrawing divine power? Do you know what the consequences are?" "That's not important. I only know that I am the Erlang god of Daxia." Yang Jin took step after step forward. "We have been missing for 100 years, and we must announce to the world in the most direct and shocking way. The gods of Daxia have returned. And now only I can do this." He glanced at the little boy and said lightly, "As for you all, take your time to recover your powers. In the future we will need you to protect this nation." He stepped forward, placed his finger to his lips and whistled. A black, fierce dog came from afar, stained with the blood of 2 giant beasts, exuding an unparalleled terrifying aura. It was Xiao Heilai. Yang Jin gently patted the fierce dog's head, and with his other hand he grasped the void, summoning a 3-pronged double-edged knife surrounded by silver lightning. Holding the knife, he slowly raised his head, looking at the chaotic thunder in the distance, and calmly stepped forward. With the first step he instantly entered the Zhan realm. With the second step his realm directly ascended to the Qi realm. With the third step, Chuan realm. With the fourth step, Hai realm. With the fifth step, Wuliang. With the sixth step, Klein. With the seventh step, he became a god. The terrifying divine pressure radiated from Yang Jin, silver lightning swirling around him. He held the 3-pronged double-edged knife, accompanied by the howling celestial dog, and a divine eye opened from his brow. A beam of divine light pierced through heaven and earth. Howling heaven. Amidst the roaring lightning, Yang Jin looked down at Xiao Heilai and slowly spoke. "Let's go, we are going to kill gods." Chapter 263. The Divine of Great Xia. Under the pitch-black sky, Indra, surrounded by swirling lightning, floated in the air, dense ball lightning circling around him, emitting a low, rumbling hum. On the ground, a battered carriage stood to the side, and Master Qin, dressed in white, stood before it. The chirping of birds and the fragrance of flowers around him were constantly shattered and reformed by the thunder, like a blade of grass swaying in the storm. Despite the violent shaking, it still stood tall and firm. Master Qin held a ruler in his hand, continuously striking at the falling thunder. The tip of the ruler had already turned charred black, and his face was grim as he stood there, the burn marks left by the lightning clearly visible on his white robe. "Ants, if you continue to hide in the carriage, I might not be able to do anything to you." Indra looked down at the disheveled Master Qin, sneering as he spoke. "But you insist on seeking your own death by coming out to fight me. Now can you still escape?" Boom. A thick bolt of lightning struck down on Master Chen's head, most of it dispersed by the ruler in his hand, while the remaining part crashed down onto his heart's cape, causing him to grunt and turn pale. He snorted coldly, straightened his back and declared loudly, "Killing my kin and ravaging my homeland. If I still avoid battle at this moment, what face do I have to call myself a citizen of the Great Xia? The territory of Great Xia cannot allow you to act recklessly." Master Qin waved the ruler in his hand, a torrent of killing intent sweeping through the sky, almost solidifying. The sound of reading echoed from his heart's cape, grand and magnificent. Indra transformed into a flash of lightning, his right foot suddenly kicking against the killing intent. The lightning surged, forcefully shattering the killing intent. "Ridiculous." A look of disdain appeared in Indra's eyes. "You mortals truly overestimate yourselves. Do not forget you Great Xia have no gods, so who gave you the courage to provoke us deities?" Indra stomped down again, directly crushing a large area of Master Chen's heartscape. Master Chen spat out a mouthful of blood and staggered back several steps. A group of ants dares to challenge the gods. Do you think you are worthy? Indra's cold laughter echoed through the heavens and the earth. Master Chen tightly gripped the ruler in his hand, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, took a deep breath, and once again stood proudly against the thunder of the heavens. Today, even if I sacrifice this body, I will let you foreign gods see what it means to not be bullied by Great Xia. The heartscape around Master Chen surged. The chirping of birds and the fragrance of flowers had completely vanished, replaced by a blood-red abyss. A cold and powerful aura overflowed from within, as if some extremely terrifying killing move was brewing. At that moment, a brilliant divine light shot out from between the cities, piercing through the three realms of heaven, earth, and the underworld. The layers of thunderclouds piled above the city were instantly pierced, creating an exaggerated large void. A terrifying aura descended upon the world. Indra sensed this aura and his expression changed instantly. He abruptly looked up into the distance, his eyes filled with suspicion. Master Chen was taken aback and turned to look. Under the dusk, the evening glow penetrated the void in the thunderclouds, and the orange light resembled a blinding pillar, cascading down from the heavens to the earth. Above the dark city skyline, this ray of light tore apart all darkness. In that orange evening glow, a figure clad in silver armor, wielding a three-pronged double-edged knife, was stepping through the void, slowly approaching. Beside him was a fierce black dog. Master Chen stared blankly at the figure walking out from the evening glow. His hand gripping the ruler trembled slightly, and unprecedented excitement appeared in his eyes. I am Yang Jian. In the evening glow, a deep voice echoed through the heavens and the earth, stretching for thousands of miles. Yang Jian, stepping through the void, slowly spoke, the vertical pupil on his forehead bursting forth with endless divine light, locking onto the floating Indra in the sky, a terrifying killing intent sweeping through the world. Who says, we Great Xia have no gods? Boom. Yang Jian's figure vanished in an instant, as if breaking through the boundless void, directly appearing before Indra. Indra's pupils suddenly contracted, the thunder around him surged, trying to block this man before him, but the next moment, that hand easily shattered all the lightning within a 10-mile radius, gripping Indra's throat. The lightning shattered. Silver light filled the sky. Yang Jian grasped Indra's neck, his eyes narrowing slightly, and he coldly spoke. With all of you, how dare you call yourselves gods? Indra's eyes were filled with endless fear and confusion, as if an earthquake had struck. His body instantly transformed into lightning, attempting to escape Yang Jian's grasp. The next moment, the divine light from the vertical pupil on Yang Jian's forehead reappeared, directly sealing all space. No matter how hard Indra struggled, he could not escape even a fraction. Yang Jian's hand suddenly exerted force, directly slamming Indra from the sky to the ground, producing a piercing roar. The terrifying shockwave erupted on the empty ground, dense spiderweb-like cracks rapidly spreading. In the center of the terrifying pit on the ground, as Indra was about to rise, Yang Jian's figure once again moved in front of him. Boom! Yang Jian stomped on Indra's chest, causing the surrounding ground to sink several dozen meters. You who rely on sacrificing your citizens and abandoning your homeland, barely surviving in the fog, are the ones who are defiling the word, God. Yang Jian leaned down, gripping Indra's shoulder and forcefully hurled him upward. Indra's body was sent directly to an altitude of 10,000 meters, while Yang Jian, wielding the three-pronged double-edged knife, rode the silver lightning, soaring into the clouds. The silver light flashed and the three-pronged double-edged knife sliced through Indra's arm, sending a severed hand flying through the air, blood splattering everywhere. Indra's features twisted violently, anger and pain flooding his mind. He let out a low roar and a thick bolt of lightning fell from the heavens, directly striking at Yang Jian. Yang Jian showed no intention of dodging, his figure like lightning, charging toward the bolt of lightning. The three-pronged double-edged knife suddenly swung out, forcefully cleaving the lightning in two. The lightning splattered against the bright blade, and Yang Jian, like a peerless fierce god, instantly appeared before Indra. We, the gods of Great Xia, sacrifice our lifelong divine power and bodies, transforming into 9 national guardian monuments to defend our borders, preventing the fog from encroaching even a fraction into Great Xia's territory, ensuring that our Great Xia citizens are not harmed by the fog. Yang Jian's three-pronged double-edged knife struck again, directly slicing through Indra's neck, beheading him. He took a deep breath and shouted loudly, "We, the gods of Great Xia, share life and death with the citizens of Great Xia. There are places that must be defended, people that must be protected, and beliefs that must be upheld. This is what it means to be a deity." Indra's blood filled the sky, and Yang Jian stood proudly, drenched in blood, above the 9 heavens. He held Indra's head, his gaze seemingly piercing through endless space, landing on the other divine realms within the fog, and shouted loudly, 800 years of reincarnation have passed. Today the gods of Great Xia return here. Chapter 264. Not yet over. The Great Xia East Sea. The turbulent waves of the sea rolled violently, white foam splashing into the air, transforming into countless fine water blades that fell like rain. Beneath the foam, a young man in a black shirt stood, holding a long sword, and gently waved it. Ding! The crisp sound of the sword echoed between heaven and earth. The rolling sword energy met the howling waves, precisely shattering every drop of water blade. The seawater fell, but not a single drop landed on Zhou Ping. He calmly looked at Poseidon before him and slowly spoke. "No need to exert yourself. I told you today, you shall not pass." Poseidon looked at him in surprise. He had to admit that this young man before him truly possessed the strength to stand against him. He opened his mouth about to say something when Yang Jian's voice echoed from afar. "A century of reincarnation has passed. Today the gods of Great Xia return here." Upon hearing this voice, both Poseidon and Zhou Ping were taken aback, though the former's face was filled with shock, while the latter's face broke into a smile. Zhou Ping held his sword, grinning like a child. "Who said, the gods of Great Xia do not exist?" The light in Poseidon's eyes flickered as he looked in the direction of the voice, his astonishment no longer concealed. "Indra actually died." He furrowed his brow, murmuring to himself, "The gods of Great Xia have truly returned?" After hesitating for a moment, he did not summon the giant waves again but took a few steps back. A passage leading to the depths of the sea slowly opened behind him. "What? No longer going to try?" Zhou Ping spoke slowly. Poseidon's eyes narrowed slightly as he gazed at the young man before him and said, "Mortal, do not be too arrogant. Even if the gods of Great Xia have returned, it does not mean that we Olympians will fear you. Our battle is not over yet." With that, he retreated, gradually disappearing into the sea. Zhou Ping silently watched all of this, only crouching down to hug his legs and curl up after confirming Poseidon's complete disappearance. He looked down at the beach beneath him and sighed deeply. "Finally, I can go home and rest." The Great Xia Northern Territory. In the darkness that enveloped several mountain peaks, a vague figure of a man changed expression. "What? The gods of Great Xia have returned, and you dare not move forward." Amidst the brilliant Buddhist light, Yi Fan squinted at Hades and spoke slowly. Hades frowned slightly. "You don't seem surprised?" Yi Fan shrugged. "How could I not know? I am the commander of the Night Watchers, and I know quite a few secrets, such as, the gods of Great Xia never disappeared. They have always quietly accompanied us." Hades stared intently into Yi Fan's eyes. After a long while he coldly spoke. "Do not be too complacent. There are not few places in the world where myths remain. The return of your gods from Great Xia will inevitably disrupt the original balance. You will become the target of many. That is not something you need to worry about." Yi Fan replied indifferently. Hades snorted coldly, his figure gradually disappearing into the darkness, the realm of the underworld covering several mountain peaks also swiftly receding. Ultimately, it vanished between the mortal realms. Yi Fan breathed a sigh of relief and turned to look in the direction of Tsangnan City, his relaxed expression gradually becoming complex. Yang Jian, Tsangnan City. Most of the roads and buildings had vanished, and only a few scattered high-rises and several rows of brand-new streets remained amidst the desolation. Only the buildings constructed in the past decade were completely preserved. The entire Tsangnan City seemed to have shattered from a large city into countless fragments, with less than 1/10 of the population existing in confusion, unsure of what to do. At this moment, at the edge of Tsangnan City, Yang Jian staggered as he walked on the ground, holding Indra's head. The vertical pupils between his brows dimmed, and the silver armor on his body began to flicker. The celestial hound followed closely beside him, occasionally whimpering, its eyes filled with worry. "Xiao Hei, it's fine." Yang Jian reached out to pat the celestial hound's head, smiling as he spoke. "The accumulated power of reincarnation over the past century has been exhausted. I have completely lost my divine status. In this life I should have reached the end." The celestial hound nuzzled against his hand and knelt beside him. "Fortunately, this battle has thoroughly established the name of the gods of Great Xia. In the future, if those foreign gods wish to invade Great Xia again, they will have to think twice. This long time should be enough for others to recover their strength and guard the national borders for me." Yang Jian sat weakly on the ground, looking at the distant city, the corners of his mouth slightly lifting. "I, Yang Jian, have no regrets in this life." He gently leaned against the celestial hound, slowly closing his eyes, his breath growing weaker. At that moment, a figure of a Taoist slowly approached from afar. The Taoist had his hair tied up with a long hairpin, his face like a bright moon, wearing a coarse Taoist robe that was spotless, and a pair of straw sandals on his feet. His steps were not hurried, yet his figure moved like a startled swan, appearing before Yang Jian in a blur. Yang Jian seemed to sense something and slowly opened his eyes, shock appearing in his gaze. "Tianzun, why are you here?" The Taoist smiled at Yang Jian and sighed helplessly. "You young one, are still so reckless in your actions. Why gamble your future to kill an ordinary foreign god?" Yang Jian opened his mouth about to say something, but the Taoist continued with a smile. "However, what you have done is indeed a great relief to many." "Wonderful, wonderful." He bent down, transferring a stream of true essence into Yang Jian's body, then slowly stood up and said, "Rest assured, today I am here. You will be fine. This time let Lao Jun send you into the furnace to reshape your divine status." Yang Jian was taken aback, his mouth agape in shock. "Has the reincarnation body of that Tianzun been found?" "It was not us who found him. He awakened himself." The Taoist shook his head, placing Yang Jian's body on the back of the celestial hound and instructed, "From now on, do not act recklessly again. The next matters will be left to us." Yang Jian asked in confusion, "The next matters? Tianzun, what are you talking about?" The Taoist smiled slightly. "Do you truly believe that you are the one among the gods of Great Xia who has fully recovered?" He raised his head to look into the distance, a hint of coldness appearing in his eyes. "The foreign gods have retreated, but that does not mean this matter is over. Our Great Xia is not a place they can come and go as they please." At this moment on Changbai Mountain, a middle-aged man with his upper body bare walked to the edge of a cliff, holding a long bow, slowly knocking an arrow from his back and began to draw it back. His eyes seemed to pierce through the boundless void, locking onto a certain figure. In the next moment, a shining golden feathered arrow pierced through space, whistling out,